Good evening and welcome to the Jon Gaunt podcast. Something a bit different tonight. We're going to have a little bit of Shakespeare, but I think it's Shakespeare that you will know. One of his most famous speeches, which almost predicts what's happened today with Prince Andrew. I want your views. What do you make of the fact that he's been arrested? We have to be a little bit careful. That's why I've widened it out, because I think his fall from grace sums up what's happening to this great country, which is why I've called this Sceptic Isle. We all know the speech, don't we? The famous speech, this Sceptered Isle, from, I think it's Richard II, Shakespeare. It's actually a speech, and I'm not saying this because we're related, because we're not, from Jon of Gaunt. As he's dying in the play, he makes that famous speech that we all know. This royal throne of kings, this sceptred isle, this earth of majesty, this seat of Mars, this other Eden, demi-paradise. Now, we all love that. And we say it at St. George's Day, and we talk about the demise of Britain or England, whatever you want to say. But why? And what does it say about Britain? Because Jon of Gaunt made that speech, well, Shakespeare wrote that speech 500 years ago. But he was actually taking the mick, basically saying the country was collapsing. Absolutely collapsing. And basically saying the country had been invaded and he didn't understand why. He talks us about, the seat of Mars. That's him saying that kings have only held on to the kingdom because of their warlike nature, because Mars is the god of war. And he says England is like another Garden of Eden, halfway towards being paradise and earthly paradise. This fortress built by nature for herself against infection and the hand of war, this happy breed of men, this little world, this precious stone set in the silver sea, which serves it in the office of a wall or as a moat. Listen to this is why it's important. Or as a moat defensive to a house against the envy of less happier lands. This blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England. Basically saying we're a fortress. We've got the channel. No one can invade us. Everything should be okay. But then, later, he's talking about the fact that we're losing it. Well, doesn't that seem similar to what's been happening in Britain? And that's why I do want to sort of talk about Shakespeare, and I want to talk about Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew is septic. Prince Andrew is a disgrace. I can say that quite easily because already the allegations against him are mounting up. I'm not saying he's guilty or not. What I'm saying is he should have gone to America and he should answer these very serious questions. This could be the demise of the monarchy, which is why yesterday I said, should the king abdicate? Some people have misinterpreted that. They didn't bother watching the podcast. They just took the title and said, it's not the king's fault or whatever. I was saying because the king is seriously ill. Isn't it time for William to take over? And I've kind of prophesied that future. Because today, Prince Andrew has been arrested. Arrested not for the serious allegations against him in the States, but arrested for effectively a kind of corruption whilst in office. I'm asking, what does this mean? What does it say about Britain? Is he the only person who is letting us down? Have we all sold out our kingdom? Is our country in a terrible state? Is it now a septic isle? Shakespeare talking about, not being able to invade us. But then later in that speech and later in that scene, he talks about the fact that we've almost got the land on lease. We're no longer proud. and that Jon Gaunt, that Shakespeare in that speech by Jon Gaunt is being ironic. He's trying to tell the king, this is where you've gone wrong. So I'm asking you, have we sold out Britain and our values and contributed, all of us, to this mess? Is he the only one, Andrew? Is he just the tip of the iceberg of corruption and privilege that is wrecking the UK? Look at Starmer. He must be rubbing his hands together, because if he plays this right, this could be the end of the monarchy. We've already got the idiots on the TV saying, oh, well, this proves we don't need a monarchy. Oh, yeah, what would you replace it with? President? Oh, that works well in certain countries, doesn't it? Not. Prince Andrew has obviously, we know this because he's an arrogant sod, right? He is in the wrong. Whether he's guilty of misconduct in public office, we'll wait and see. But do you understand where I'm coming from here? Have we all sold out our values? This great country, this Sceptered Isle, the Isle of Shakespeare, art, culture. We're a brilliant nation, but we've let every Tom, Dick, and you know who into the country. And have we diluted what it is? We've allowed the corruption, it is corruption, the moral corruption of the woke culture into Britain, where now, if you dare to put up the Union flag or put up the flag of St. George, you're somehow a racist. Where supporters of Hamas can march on our streets, where Jews no longer feel safe, where we let people in, undocumented men of fighting age, and even when they rape and abuse our women, we don't chuck them out of the country. We have no borders. It is no longer a sceptred isle protected by a moat, the channel. Keir Starmer can't control our borders. Now, do you see where I'm coming from? So has Britain become a septic isle? Have we lost our values? Have we lost our morals? More young kids unemployed than anywhere else in Europe. Why aren't we teaching them great British values? And before you start saying, oh, what's a British value? Tolerance, acceptance, sense of fair play, but not allowing ourselves to have the piss taken out of us. But look at the government we've got at the moment. Look at those who want to control us. They all sing off the same hymn sheet. But is it the hymn sheet of Britain or England, whatever you want to call it? So have we gone from a sceptred isle to a septic isle? I say Shakespeare predicted this over 500 years ago. Are you seeing where I'm coming here? I'd like your opinion. What do you make of what Prince Andrew is alleged to have done? Is it the end of the royal family? And would that be a good thing? I said last night, no, it would not. But you may have a different opinion. Let's hear your views. What's this idiot on about? Jean-Marc Bordeaux. Buy fake live. What do you mean it's fake live? I'm live. I was bloody late starting. How much more live than that can you get? If you don't want to stay, I don't care. The mood I'm in today. I think our country has been sold out by a succession of idiots. Jean-Marc Bordeaux, listen to this. Is this another repeat again? Another fake live? Is this really live? Yes, it is. If you don't like it, put your hand on the knob, twiddle it, and watch something else. I ain't bothered. I'm not bothered what you think, unless you want to contribute to the debate. Join in. Has this country sold its soul? You're all keen on quoting that famous speech. Most of you, I guess, like me, I wasn't sure which play it was from till I looked it up again today, but it's Richard II. And ironically, Jon Gaunt. There is no relation. Jon Gaunt says all this on his deathbed. Is he right if we address that now? Is this a country that no longer has values? Nature has built England as a fortress. He says England, Shakespeare, he means Britain, as a fortress. But are we anymore? Can we withstand invasion or attack? No, we can't. No, we can't. Or certainly our leaders can't. Starmer. So I want to know what you think about this. And I've deliberately put it within this Shakespearean thing so we can talk about, oh, well, maybe you don't think Britain was ever great. I don't know, maybe. I just think it's a crazy situation we've got ourselves in, where people even debate, oh, maybe we should change the flag. Let's change the national anthem. I've got some sympathy with that argument. Change the national anthem, make it more modern, make it more diverse. We're so busy thinking about being diverse and saying diversity is our strength. We've lost our essential Britishness. We've lost our sense of ourselves. And that isn't racist saying that. It's pure common sense. The French wouldn't allow this. Why have we got into this position? And then on the practical, Prince Andrew. If it's proved he's abused his situation, like I said yesterday, I want him sent to America. Interestingly, later in that play that I was talking about, Richard II, he talks about the enemy of great civilization, which is excessive bureaucracy. He calls them inky blots and rotten parchment bonds. And he says they've been used to sign England away. Remind you of anything? The EU, for example, or the European, the ECHR. We don't control our own rocky shores anymore. We no longer have a moat. When Jon of Gaunt is talking about this, 500 years ago, in Shakespeare's words, he says basically, England is finished. England, stroke Britain, England has been it's been destroyed and conquered. Listen to this bit, not by some foreign army, but by itself, from within. Does that sound familiar to you? It certainly sounds familiar to me. We've sold out this country. We've got different political parties, but they all sing from the same hymn sheet. They are not doing what we want them to do. What is your opinion of this? Audio crackling tonight, Jon. What are you on about? Listen, is that all you fucking care about? England's dying, and you get this little podcast that you don't even pay for. God, sometimes this makes me so mad that people are so binary, so stupid. I'm sorry if it's cackling. Go and listen to Talk Radio or Talk Sport, where they'll be just doing a very simple, is Prince Andrew a baddie? Rather than trying to widen our brains. I'm going to lose it tonight if I'm not careful. Maggie Young, hiya Maggie, she's a regular. This is so sad for our monarchy. I can't believe that someone who had the world at his feet behaved like this. Well, I agree with you. He had everything. He had everything. And these allegations are serious, Maggie. Like Mandelson. Was Mandelson selling us out as well? He's not the first and he won't be the last. What is wrong with these people, Maggie? I am with you all the way. Anybody else want to talk about this? Do you see what I'm trying to say here, guys? Our political class have sold us out. And isn't it interesting? All the focus in the mainstream media is on Prince Andrew. Where's Mandelson gone? Is the same thing going to happen with Mandelson? Are they going to take away all his books? They've taken away some of his stuff, I see. Keir Starmer made a speech yesterday or this morning. He must have got wind that was happening. And he said basically, they should feel the full weight of the law and they shouldn't be treated differently. But they've already been treated differently. Two-tier care, two-tier justice. It happens every day in our country. So what I'm talking about here today is, was Shakespeare right all those years ago when Jon Gaunt was on his deathbed and he basically said, England's gone. England's been sold out. Isn't there a Marillion song about that? There is, I'm sure there is. Not that I was a fan of Marillion, although I did meet Fish a few times. What a nice bloke he is. But back to my point, and I'm sorry I just got ratty a moment ago, but I'm trying to elevate the debate. I don't just want to do Andrew's a baddie. It's boring. There's been all day they've been doing that on GB News and Talk Sport and Talk Radio. Let's talk about whether England, Britain is finished. Where's our values? Where's the ties that bind us? If you want to comment, just write in the comment box. There's loads there already. I'm coming to you now. Leon Teal says, the best advice I could give to Andrew is head to the Mexican border while you still can. Well, I doubt whether he can. I should imagine now they've taken his passport off him. But anyway, why do you want him to escape justice? Mad. Everyone's equal under the law. The Epstein diaries highlighted so much that Andrew had allegedly done wrong. Let the police do their job, and he will have to answer for any wrongdoing. Yes, of course. And so will all the other people. But I don't think you're going to be surprised by what comes out, are you, Graham? And I'm asking, is it symptomatic of a bigger problem within our country? Do you understand what I'm saying? Annette Locke says, yes, the Conservatives set it up and Labour are the executioners to the end of Britain. I think that's a good point. This is somebody else saying the sound's crackling. Maybe I'm too loud. I don't know. I'll just check my mic. Is that the most important thing? Do you want it to sound like the BBC? Oh, no. See, this is so binary. Leanne says, worrying that the sudden interest in Islam by the Not My King. Somebody sent me one of those things yesterday saying that he was a Muslim lover. Why do you have to bring it down to base levels? He wants to be kind of the leader of all religions in this country. I think that's okay. I don't know. Annette Locke, I'm going to stop in a minute because I'm working myself up into a frenzy and I'm going to be really rude to somebody. We're not finished and I'll never give in, says Annette Locke. People need to say, F you. We ain't sodding having it. We're made of better stuff than this. Stand up and be an Englander. Well, maybe, Annette, but not many people are. People are beginning to be ashamed of the flag, or they use the flag and then twist it into racism when there's no need to. Just be proud of our culture, our history, our traditions. We're a great country. People like Andrew, people like Mandelson, they're the scum of the earth. But have we all become part of this? Do you understand what I don't think you probably do, but anyway. Hi, John. It's a long march through the institutions coming to fruition. Precisely. They've taken over the institutions. Will Mandelson be arrested, or will the so-called Human Rights Brigade hush him out of the back door? I don't know, Niven. The thing I do know, Niven, is that they must be loving the establishment, the fact that the attention is on Andrew. And also, of course, today they've employed another woke woman to be the head of the civil service, effectively, his new advisor. Starmer never lets an opportunity go by. I'm sorry, but am I beginning to make any sense? Let's move on. Richard Pope, good evening, John. I think Prince William needs to stop the monarchy and democracy diminishing. He needs to focus on Kate. We know that. It's like no one else can be asked. I agree with you, Richard. And it was kind of what I said in my podcast last night. King Charles is clearly still very, very poorly. He deserves some time for himself and his wife. The pressure of this, can you imagine what this feels like if you are the king and it's your brother and you've still got to do your duty. I saw a comment today by some idiot on GB News. I won't embarrass him too much, but he said, oh, fancy being arrested on your birthday. What bad things have happened on your birthday? That's what he wanted people, you know what I'm talking about. That's what he wanted people to talk about. Both diminishing the scale of what Andrew is about to face, and also, if it turns out that there's a trial over his links with Epstein, which I think there will be, diminishing the victims as well. And some twat wrote back saying, oh, I got stuck in IKEA on my birthday. It's people being given a microphone who are still children. In this case, public school boy couldn't get into Oxford, went to Durham University. I'm not going to name him. I don't want to embarrass him. But I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't believe there was no one of real authority, apart from Mark White on GB News and their political editor. But it was a succession of kids. Come on, grow up. Our country is in peril. Assassins Unite says nothing will happen. Well, what does that mean? This is why the EU will collapse through its open border policy. But member nations are beginning to wake up and smell the coffee, John. To the EU, we're just a colony now. Exactly. These spineless politicians were spoiled by the control under the EU. It's effed them up ever since we left, John. Yeah, they don't like it. And also, that's why the people say, oh, what's Brexit done for us? Well, I think it's done lots for us. It hasn't let us control our borders because Starmer is too weak. Starmer is a human rights lawyer first and foremost. So he doesn't want to leave the EHCR. He doesn't want to rewrite the Human Rights Act, even though the population, that's what they want. He doesn't want to do it. Are you with me or against me? I think this is a really, really important podcast. And I'd like you to get into it and join in with me on it. More people than last night, which is good. Everything that's wrong with this country has been inflicted on us by the elites, says Paul Rowbottom on Facebook. You are right. By and large, the people of this country are still decent, law-abiding people. The simple answer is to get rid of the elites. It is the answer, but it's not that simple, Paul. But thank you for your comments. Den Spink says, chill, John. Lol, laugh out loud. Thank you. John Weems says, this should have happened years ago. What? The arrest of Prince Andrew? Well, there's another question to be asked about that. Did the tabloid newspapers help to create Andrew? Do you remember when he was in the Navy and he was Randy Andy this, Randy Andy that, pictures of him as a playboy? Did his mother, God rest her soul, create this? He was her favourite. There is a difference between him and the king, isn't there? But I tell you what, I feel sorry for the king at the moment. After all he's been through, he now has to cope with this. He also has to cope with what I predicted in the podcast last night. The Republicans are coming out from under the stones where they live, and they're saying we don't need a monarchy. So predictable. But that's what's going to happen. This is what's going to be pushed on. And I think that'll be bad for the country. I think we're losing our culture. I think we're losing our identity. Because you know what? Underneath it all, maybe the Brits just aren't that bothered. But then there's the raise the flags. Then there's the patriots. Then there's the people who still join the army, still serve for us. I just think we're in a really sorry state. And we're not a Sceptered Isle. We're a Septic Isle. Everybody wants to live here because it's the land of freebies. It's the land of handouts. If you want to comment, you know what to do. If you want to donate, feel free as well. Click on the $sign or go to www.buymeacoffee.com. I'm just getting angry. Like yesterday, I just think I'm trying to produce podcasts that are a bit different. I don't just want to go binary, simple, No point. I believe Andrew's been thrown to the wolves by the others involved further up the food chain and what they're trying to hide. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, David? I've got no time for him, but it makes you wonder. And then the way mainstream, how come they were there with cameras this morning? How did they know that the police were coming in these unidentified, non-liveried cars? Those perfect shots of them. Just makes you wonder. I mean, let's see what happens. And if he's been selling out our country, I want the book thrown at him. And I'm in no way supporting him at all. At all. But I want him to answer on the Epstein charges. I don't want this to be the smokescreen to cover that up. I've been thinking much more about the Epstein thing as well. I think people, because that girl Virginia was over 16, I think people have been thinking, oh, well, that's not really paedophilia. But it is. It is. And I think stuff's going to come out about much, much younger children. And I don't understand, not necessarily with Prince Andrew, by the way, just cover my arse, but I just don't understand why people aren't up in arms. Everybody were up in arms about the rape gangs. Annette Locke, it took the pensioners to bring Thatcher to heel. That's very true. Looks like us 60 and over will have to get out and follow in their footsteps with this load of twats too, John. Says Annette, I love you, Annette. That's brilliant stuff. Nivan Casey says, I loved our Queen, but I could never understand how Andrew was her favourite son. I think maybe because when Philip and Elizabeth had Charles, they were doing lots of world tours, weren't they? That was the way it had to be done, and he was left at home. I think Andrew was closer to them. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. Somebody here now saying, loving the podcast. Thank you, my friend. Know thyself. He's just donated a couple of quid by clicking the $sign. Thank you very, very much indeed. Jackie Ward, I sort of wonder, with the amount of corruption that there seems to be everywhere, did Jeffrey Epstein buy his freedom? Is he sitting on a private island watching this all unfold? Nothing would surprise me, John. With his money, just about anyone can be bought. That is brilliant, Jackie. That is brilliant. Because that's how it feels. That's how it feels. Talking about Prince Andrew today, the news was just dominated about him. What about Mandelson? I'm not saying what about Mandelson to divert away from Andrew. I want Andrew to answer to these charges, including the Epstein ones, and Mandelson. But there were certain mainstream news outlets today who are already trying to move on the debate to, shall we get rid of the monarchy? That's surely too early, isn't it? Banana Republic, Septic Isle, doomed town rats. Oh, very good, says Den Spinks. Thank you. That upper middle class libtard, Nina Miskoff, blamed the plight of our pubs on Brexit last night on Patrick Christie's. Unfortunately, nobody challenged her on it. I'm speechless. Thank you, my friend. Terry Wheatley, hi, John. Oh, hi. I have no sympathy for Andrew. But there are many people hiding behind the sofa. Probably lots of people in the film and arts industry. Terry, that's a brilliant line. I'll go further with that. In the media industry as well. In TV and broadcasting. They were all mates with Mandelson. I'm not saying they're paedophiles. I'm not saying that at all. But it wouldn't surprise you, would it, if a few of them are named? The bloke who was the voice of Britain, Hugh Edwards, turned out to be a pedo. Do you see where I'm coming from? And I think where Terry's coming from. And I guess what I'm asking, my plea tonight, which is why I'm being so passionate and I'm so upset about it, is if we're not careful, nothing will happen. This will just be forgotten about. I mean, Andrew's already been banished, hasn't he, to a certain extent? We won't get to the core of it. We just won't get to the core of it. I find that depressing. I find that really depressing, because this is a great, great country. This is a sceptered isle. This is a country that shouldn't be finished. It shouldn't be destroyed or conquered. And of course, what Shakespeare was saying in that play was, it's not just being destroyed by a foreign army, it's being destroyed by itself from within. He talks about bureaucracy. Obviously doesn't use that word, but that's what he talks about. But in a sense, that's what's happened with us now, isn't it? You can't do this, you can't do that. You've got to watch your P's and Q's. You can't say that. That's wasteth. If you support this political side, you're that. If you're that political side, you're this. It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. How do we get it back? How do we instill a pride? We've got teachers and universities. Got more kids going to university than ever, but I think kids are thicker than ever. I do. I genuinely do. Then we got the fact that kids can't work till they're 18 or whatever. So they don't do Saturday jobs. They don't learn the idea and the importance of work. And then Starmer expects our kids to join the army to fight in a foreign war, not to protect our borders. So in a sense, that speech that I talked about at the beginning of this program, that famous speech, which we all kind of know, or at least know the beginning of, this royal throne of kings, this sceptered isle, Shakespeare is actually not praising. He's not taking the mick, he's giving us a warning of where the country was going to go. And it's kind of relevant now. It's interesting because after that speech, which everybody knows, people don't really know the play. I mean, I studied Shakespeare, but I don't really know Richard II. Not like I know Richard III or Hamlet or Macbeth or something. But when he talks about land, giving away our land, after he's finished that speech, King Richard II arrives. And John of Gaunt has obviously already delivered that big speech. But then he calls out the king. He has a go at the king for surrounding himself with flatterers. Sound familiar, Mr. Starmer? And allowing this once great nation of England to go to ruin. So then when you look back at the speech in that context, it's actually those words which are praising England's greatness are in fact not doing that. John of Gaunt in Shakespeare is actually saying England is no longer great. And he prophesies a civil war. Sound familiar? To follow. Of course, John of Gaunt's son, Henry Bolingbroke, who in Richard II, he's been banished from the kingdom, returns. And he challenges Richard and eventually becomes king. John of Gaunt, is Richard's uncle, but he's also Bolingbroke's father. So, it's not that John of Gaunt, speaks just out of anger or annoyance because his son has been banished. But as the Duke of Lancaster and a powerful figure in the country, he speaks as one who loves England, but fears that it's being destroyed, ready? This sound familiar, this bit, by a bad, weak ruler. He believes England is being sold down the river by its leader. You see now why I wanted to talk about this? Are you beginning to see how these things tie together? The world's greatest ever writer, talking about power and corruption and about selling ourselves out. Why aren't we still proud to be proud of our country? Nothing wrong with that. That can never be racist, can it? Let's take some more views. I'm going to stop in a minute, but thank you for those of you who are beginning to get what I'm talking about. The Epstein files have revealed much more than paedophilia. It's revealed sacrifice of children and babies. Hollywood is run by paedophilia. We're surrounded by evil, says Denise. Yeah, there's certainly been those accusations, Denise. I want to see those substantiated. I understand where you're coming from about that. And I don't think Hollywood is run by paedophilia, but I take your point. There's certain an amount of there, of course, like in all entertainment sections. But we can't just keep blaming the bogeyman. We can't just keep saying it's them, not us. Why aren't we proud? Why aren't we defending our values? Why have we allowed ourselves to be turned into a septic isle? Kids are no longer free thinking. They've all been indoctrinated one way or another, says Pam Millett. Pam, I half agree with you, but they haven't been indoctrinated one way or the other. They've been indoctrinated in one way, wokeness, because they're the cultural Marxists are the people who've taken over all the institutions. Thomas Reed, this is a good comment, on YouTube, says our own government poses a bigger threat to us than Russia. I know a lot of people who agree with you on that, Thomas. Thank you for your comment. They want the kids thick, says Annette. They're easier to manipulate. I went to university late in life. We were told they don't like older students. I said, I know. You cannot feed us bullshit, and we know the score. Absolutely, Annette. They're like a factory turning out kids who just believe in one thing. I've got a very good friend who works for the BBC, only in local telly, but I hadn't seen him for years, and I met him in the pub and had a drink with him, and it was horrendous. We were big mates, worked together in Coventry on the radio years and years ago, but it turned into this woke libtard, and there was no talking to him, and he had me marked down, well, maybe it's true, as a racist, a little Englander. I felt sorry for him. Anyway, let's move on. Allowing a 16-year-old to vote is a sign of more than just desperation from this Labour government. Den, you're right. That ties into the debate. I don't think anyone should be able to vote until they've got their own dustbin. I've said this for years. Or they've had a kid or two. Where's their stake in society? I know there's exceptions, but you understand what I'm getting at. In general principle. And what's worse than that, many kids just not interested in politics. And this is a very good one to end on. Lena Tail. Proud of your country? You're going to get a police visit, usually in the early hours. You're right. The stormtroopers will be around. Mr. Gaunt, did you say you should be proud of the flag? Wrap yourself in it. Did you say this? Did you say that? Yeah. We'd like you to come down the station. No. But I can see this happening. I can see it. I know where you're coming from. So I'm sorry if I was a bit ranty tonight. I'm sorry if I've upset some of you. But we've got to try and move the debate on. We could have just had a debate about Prince Andrew, but what's the point, really? Overprivileged idiot. I don't like the way people are attacking the king as well. There's no evidence for it. There's obviously a big question mark about who gave Richard the money. Not Richard. Who gave Andrew the cash. It looks like Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II gave him millions to pay off the person who was accusing him of paedophilia. And that needs to be investigated. But what a sorry state we're in. Lena Tail says, it shows your passion, John. Well, maybe. It doesn't pay the wages, though, does it? Because nobody contributes. Everyone thinks, oh, he's in a bad mood. I am in a bad mood. Because our country is being sold out. And not just by the establishment, by ourselves. We fall into the trap. Just my views. If you do want to donate, you can just simply, please, click on the $sign. and donate as much or as little as you possibly can. Also, as well, you can go to www.buymeacoffee.com/Jon Gaunt and donate there. Lots of you have been doing that. Thank you very much indeed. 20 likes tonight. A few more people watching. We seem to have lost a few people just recently. David KT, that's a nice way to end. He says, hasn't William Shakespeare now being taught as being a woman of colour? No, it's one person who said that. he's an African woman living in Italy. We shall see. Jackie Ward's given me 3 hearts. Maggie Young, who used to be here every night, has just given me 5 claps. And the Sky Blue heart, a heart, because she's a Sky Blue fan. Thank you, Maggie. We're doing brilliantly. Terry Wheatley says, excellent show, John. Well, I don't think it was excellent because I've been out this afternoon, went to see my daughter in Leamington. So I only thought about this as I drove back with Lisa. So I think if I'd had more time, I did think about cancelling the show and doing it tomorrow because I wanted to put a bit more flesh on the bones. But sometimes you've just got to say what you got to say. And this Shakespeare thing, this Richard II, this quote that we all quote on St. George's Day, most people don't really know what it means. And I must admit, I thought it was just pure patriotism, but today I've learned a lot more about it. But we should be proud of our country, really proud of it. And it's not racist to be so. Josie Brooks says, John, no words. Thank you, Josie. And the whole Prince Andrew thing. And I do feel real sorry for the king. People only pay off blackmailers if what, who, and what is true. Well, you can come to your talking there, Pam, about why did Prince Andrew, as he was, pay off that girl. I don't know. That's going to come out in the next few weeks. Loads is going to come out in the next few weeks. And I think a lot of people are going to be shocked to their core. I really do. We've got to reassert ourselves. It's a great country. That's why every Tom, Dick and Abdul wants to come and live here. That's why they risk their lives to get here. We can't have everybody. Well-controlled, managed immigration has been great for this country. But it can't be uncontrolled. You can't have queue jumpers. You can't. And you certainly then can't give them all the NHS treatments before the people who have lived and built this country. You can't. You cannot do that. Why can't our leaders see that? Why do they hate us so much? Read the bacon and egg sound quality. Not your fault. I've heard many a scratch record, John. Good show. Is it bad, the sound tonight? I must check all my connections. And if I'm in the wrong, I'll apologise tomorrow. It's Friday tomorrow. I don't normally do a show. But I might tomorrow because I think this is all going to develop overnight. Or maybe it won't. Maybe I'll just brush it all under the carpet. All right, I'm off. Thank you very much for joining in. Lovely to have you back on board. Jackie Ward, of course, and Maggie Young. Thank you. If you got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Hey. Don't forget to tell them you love them. I might see you tomorrow. If not, I'll see you over the weekend. All the best.